Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast, where we refuse to just skim the headlines. In the world of enterprise software, the stakes are too high for fluff. You need to know what's really going on beneath the surface.
Whether you're looking at a complex software implementation, improving your accounting controls, or a new security protocol, you need to understand how things really work when the rubber meets the road. I'm Ryan Caldwell. I'm here to help break down those complex ideas and systems so they actually make sense for your day-to-day.
And I'm Morgan Hale. I'm here to keep us focused on the big picture and ensure we get straight to the actionable insights you need to lead. Together, we'll talk with you like the advisors you'd hire to overhaul your tech stack.
We call this the Deep Dive. We are exploring the tools that power your business, from accounting and real estate to high-stakes security.
So if you're a CEO, a franchise director, CFO, or CTO, and you're looking for thorough analysis, you've found your home.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive in.
Okay, I want you to picture a moment that really every entrepreneur dreams about. You have spent 10, maybe 15 years building a business. You survived the lean years, the brand is finally solid, your sales team is just crushing their targets, and you're sitting across this big mahogany table from a buyer.
It's the finish line, the big payoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are ready for the exit. You are mentally popping the champagne.
And then
the music stops. The buyer looks at your valuation, pulls out a red pen, and just slashes millions of dollars off the price.
Oh, it's the absolute nightmare scenario.
And the crazy part, it wasn't because your sales slumped. It wasn't because the market crashed. It was because of something sitting on your finance team's computer right now.
Spreadsheets and QuickBooks. Usually the culprit is the last thing a CEO is paying attention to, spreadsheets.
The humble, ubiquitous Excel file. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a really eye-opening report. It's titled The Valuation Discount Hiding in Plain Sight.
Yeah, it is.
And honestly, this might be one of the most expensive lessons a business owner can learn.
It really is. And, to be specific, we are looking at this through the lens of multi-entity real estate brokerages.
Right.
But look, if you aren't running a brokerage, do not tune out. Because the financial physics we are about to discuss, they apply to almost any complex business. But for brokerages, the stakes are incredibly high.
So, the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We want to understand why spreadsheet dependency, which, it just sounds like a minor administrative annoyance, is actually a massive red flag that costs sellers millions.
That's it. And if we want to get to the bottom of this, we have to start with a fundamental truth about M&A. Most business owners think buyers are just buying earnings. I made $1 million in profit, buy my profit.
Sure.
But in M&A, buyers aren't just buying your EBITDA. They are buying confidence in those earnings.
Confidence, that's a bit of a squishy metric, isn't it? How do you put a price tag on confidence?
It's everything. If that confidence is shaky because your finance team is, using manual workarounds to stitch the numbers together, the value of the deal drops. Period. And I want to be really clear about something here. The CFO or the accounting staff that are using spreadsheets aren't doing anything wrong. They're doing their job. They're providing the reports the organization needs. And they're using Excel or Google Sheets because their company uses QuickBooks or some other entry-level accounting system that can't keep track of all the different parts of the company. Well, I guess there is another reason too, and we'll talk about this later, but they also have to use spreadsheets because QuickBooks can't track all the companies we own all in one place.
The source material has this great description of what that shaky finance operation looks like inside a company. It says, and I love this quote, "It often looks like a collection of talented people holding together a fragile reporting process."
Which is a very polite way of saying it's held together with duct tape and good intentions.
Right. And inside the company, that looks like dedication. It looks like the controller staying late to get the board pack ready.
Right.
But you're saying the buyer sees that differently.
They view it as a liability. When a buyer sees manual workarounds like those massive Excel bridges or manual entity consolidations, they don't see resourcefulness. They see three things.
Okay.
They see a business that is harder to verify, harder to integrate, and harder to scale.
And that perception isn't just a feeling. It morphs into a very specific financial penalty. The report calls it the valuation discount.
Correct. And this discount isn't vague. It hits your wallet in 4 very specific ways.
Okay, let's unpack these. Because I think this is where business owners get blindsided. They think the deal is about the top-line number, but the erosion happens in these details. The first mechanism is multiple compression.
This is the big lever. In M&A, your business value is usually a multiple of your earnings, right? Maybe you're worth 6 times your EBITDA, maybe 7 times. That number, that multiple, is essentially a risk assessment.
So a safe bet gets a higher multiple.
Exactly. Durable, reliable, verifiable earnings get high multiples. But let's say your monthly reporting is slow, or it's inconsistent across your different offices.
Ooh.
Or, as is often the case, it's dependent on some complex spreadsheet bridge that only one guy named Dave understands.
That's always a Dave. And if Dave goes on vacation, the books don't close.
Precisely. If that's the case, the buyer has to ask how much of this profit is real and how much is just a classification error or a timing issue.
So the earnings look uncertain.
And uncertainty compresses multiples. So instead of a 7x multiple, maybe they offer you 5.5x. That shift alone can wipe out millions in deal value, which we will actually calculate a bit later.
Wow.
It's not that the money isn't there, it's that they won't pay full price for money they can't easily track.
That brings us to the second mechanism, which feels a little more direct, the cleanup tax.
It is direct and it is punitive. Think about it from the buyer's perspective. They're doing diligence and they realize, wow, the chart of accounts is a mess, or the intercompany rules are non-existent. They know that once they buy you, they have to fix that.
They have to stabilize the ship.
Right. They have to pay for software integrations. They have to hire consultants to standardize reporting. And they are not going to pay for that out of their own pocket. They are going to deduct that estimated cost from the purchase price.
But the source mentions it's not just simply lowering the price, right? There are other structural protections they demand that can really tie up your cash.
Yes, and this is where it gets painful for the seller. They might demand an escrow or a holdback. Basically, they're saying, we're going to hold out 10 or 15% of your money till we can prove that the numbers you provided were legitimate. And if they turn out to be real, we'll let you get the rest of your purchase price through an earnout.
I've heard horror stories about earnouts that basically shifts all the risk back to you, the seller.
Completely. You only get paid if the numbers hold up 6 or 12 months later. So you're doing the work, selling the company, but you might not see that money for years, if ever all, because your spreadsheets were messy and the buyer wants insurance.
Okay, mechanism number 3, EBITDA leakage. This one sounds technical, but it seems to be about the cost of the work itself.
In a way, yeah, it's a leak in your profit margin. We tend to think of spreadsheets as free. You already have Excel, you already have the staff, but manual processes are incredibly expensive in terms of labor hours.
You mean the actual time spent doing reconciliations, chasing down exceptions,
Fixing broken formulas, yes. That is administrative drag. If you have to pay 2 extra analysts $80,000 a year to manually consolidate reports every month, that's $160,000 in higher labor costs.
Sure, but in a multi-million-dollar business, does $160,000 really matter that much?
It matters immensely because of the math of valuation. Remember, you're sold on a multiple.
Right.
Higher labor costs mean lower margins. And here's where the math really hurts.
Oh, I think I see where this is going. It's a multiplier effect.
Exactly. If you waste $100,000 a year on manual labor to fix spreadsheets, and you're selling at a 6x multiple, you haven't just lost $100,000, you've lowered your sale price by $600,000.
That is a brutal realization. You're literally paying a premium for your own inefficiency.
Reduced margin is multiplied. That's the phrase to remember. Every dollar of waste in the finance department destroys $6 or $7 of exit value.
Okay, the fourth mechanism, diligence fatigue. This sounds like what happens to me after reading contracts for too long, but I assume in this context, it kills deals.
It kills them dead. It's about deal risk. When your reporting is person-dependent, meaning you need to ask a specific person to run a specific report, due diligence takes forever.
Right. The buyer asks for data, and the seller has to scramble.
And every time the buyer asks a question, there's a delay. Or worse, an inconsistency. Hey, why does this report say X, but last month's report said Y? Every one of those moments creates a surprise. And in deal-making, surprises are toxic.
Because it looks like you're hiding something.
Or that you just don't know what's going on. If the diligence drags on too long, 2 things happen. 1, the buyer might just walk away, find an easier target.
And the second?
Or two, they retrade.
They retrade. That sounds ominous.
It's the dirty word in M&A. That's when they come back late in the game, when you're exhausted, your team is burned out.
You just want to close.
You just want it to be over. And they say, given all these data issues and risks we found, we're lowering the offer.
That is the stuff of nightmares. So we have multiple compression, the cleanup tax, EBITDA leakage, and diligence fatigue. That is a formidable four-headed monster.
It is. And the tragedy is that it's entirely preventable.
You know, we're talking about this with the assumption that everyone knows how hard it is to prove financials with spreadsheets.
You're right. For people listening that have never been through an audit, they might not be clear on why reconciling month-end with tie-outs to spreadsheets is so tough. You want to give an example?
Yeah, okay, sure. Here's an example. The profit and loss from QuickBooks shows an 80% cost of goods sold. But you told the buyer that all the agents are on a 70-30 split. This makes sense to you. You know that most of the agents are on a 70-30. But there's that high-producing team on a 90-10, and they're decreasing the gross profit to 20%. You'll need spreadsheets to explain that.
I've got one. The company has been growing through acquiring other brokerages. They all use QuickBooks, so now each month we produce 7 standalone profit and loss statements, one for each company. And then we manually transcribe all the P&L numbers into a unified spreadsheet. But that's a little hard because the 7 companies have slightly different charts of account. But we do it. And then the buyer asks for a consolidated balance sheet. And we're back to the spreadsheets, trying to stitch 7 balance sheets together and get the equity right when each company has a different value.
Okay, I think this is enough. It's making my head hurt just thinking about it. So let's pivot to the industry context. The source specifically flags multi-entity real estate brokerages as being especially vulnerable. Why them? Why not a shoe store?
Well, software companies have their own issues, but real estate brokerages have a unique cocktail of complexity. It's the nature of the model. First, you have complex intercompany cash flow.
Money moving between different offices or legal entities.
Constantly. You might have a holding company, a property management arm, 3 different brokerage offices. One entity pays the marketing bill, another one records the expense. Tracking that in Excel to make sure it all nets out to 0 is a nightmare.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the big one is the commission plans.
Oh, right. Real estate commissions are never simple. It's not just you sell a house, you get 3%.
Never. It's splits, caps, tiered structures based on volume, team overrides, franchise fees off the top. Calculating that manually for hundreds of agents, it's chaos.
And agents are usually independent contractors, so the reporting needs are different.
Correct. And then you need to report performance not just for the company, but by specific office or by agent team. The buyer wants to know which office is profitable and which one is bleeding cash.
And if your expenses are all just lumped together in one general ledger and you're using Excel to allocate them.
The buyer can't trust the profitability of the individual units. They want repeatable financial truth. That's the key phrase from the text. They don't want to perform forensic spreadsheet archaeology to figure out how you got your numbers.
Forensic spreadsheet archaeology. I love that term, but I would hate to be the one doing it.
It's miserable work, and buyers will charge you for the misery.
The source actually gives a specific vignette, a little story about this happening. It talks about a brokerage operating on an Excel-based commission program alongside QuickBooks.
A very common setup. You have the accounting software for the ledger, and then this massive mutant spreadsheet for commissions.
And they struggled. They struggled to report both financials and commissions cleanly. It was just a mess of one-time cleanup work and manual reconciliations.
Right. The sources of truth didn't talk to each other, so every month end was a complete fire drill.
And the consequence was that someone had to pay to make those numbers diligence ready. The source makes a crucial point here. If the reporting maturity lags behind the operational complexity, there is a cost.
Right.
If the seller doesn't pay at pre-close to fix it, the buyer just deducts it or delays the close.
It's a debt. You have technical debt in your finance department, and the buyer's going to call that loan.
So let's get practical. If you're listening to this and looking at your own back office, what are the red flags? What is the buyer going to ask for that exposes this spreadsheet dependency immediately?
It's a pretty standard checklist, but for a spreadsheet-heavy firm, it's terrifying. First, they want trailing 24-month data.
2 years of history.
But not just the totals. They want it consolidated and broken down by legal entity. If you're pasting that together manually from 24 different monthly files, good luck.
You're liable to make a copy-paste error that changes the valuation. What else?
They want intercompany schedules and elimination logic. Basically, proof that you aren't double counting revenue when money moves between your own companies.
Okay.
They want EBITDA bridges with consistent normalization rules.
Meaning, if you adjust for one-time expenses like a lawsuit or something, you need to do it the same way every time.
Correct. If you treat a holiday party as marketing one year and general admin the next, that's a huge red flag. And finally, and this is the one people miss, they want to see a close calendar.
A closed calendar? That sounds so simple, just dates on a page?
It's proof of a repeatable process. They want to know, how many days does it take you to close the books? Who approves it? What are the controls? If you can't answer that, or if the answer is whenever the controller finishes the spreadsheet, the buyer assumes hidden risk.
And prices accordingly.
And prices accordingly.
Okay, we've talked about the psychology, the mechanisms, the red flags, but I want to get to the aha moment, the math, because a source provides a valuation example that really drives this home.
This is where it gets real. This is where we stop talking about process and start talking about wealth.
So let's walk through this carefully. The scenario is a brokerage with $1.5 million in normalized EBITDA. That's the profit.
Right. 1.5 million. A solid, healthy business. Probably took a decade of hard work to get there.
Now we have two scenarios. Scenario A is the strong reporting scenario. The books are clean, the systems are automated, the confidence is high.
In this case, because the buyer has high confidence in the data, they're willing to pay a 7.0x multiple, so 7 times 1.5 million.
Which gives us a valuation of $10.5 million.
Nice payday. Champagne time.
Now, scenario B, spreadsheet dependency. Same business, same staff, same 1.5 million in profit. But the reporting is fragile. It's hard to verify. It takes 3 weeks to get the data room ready.
So the risk goes up, confidence goes down, and the buyer drops the multiple to 5.5x.
And 5.5 times 1.5 million is $8.25 million.
Do the subtraction.
That is a gap of $2.25 million.
$2.25 million. Gone. Poof.
That is staggering. The business performed exactly the same. The customers were just as happy. The agent sold just as many houses. But because the back office was using Excel instead of a platform, the owner lost over $2 million.
And let's be clear, that is purely the confidence discount. That doesn't even account for the other stuff we mentioned, the holdbacks, the earnouts, the actual cost of the cleanup. The real cash at close could be even lower.
And the source notes this applies even to smaller brokerages, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a giant conglomerate to suffer this hit.
Absolutely. The multiples might change. Maybe a smaller firm is looking at a 4 to 6x range, but the mechanism of the reduction is identical. If they can't trust the data, they lower the price. It's universal financial physics.
It really reframes how you look at your accounting software expense. You might think you're saving money by not upgrading. Oh, we can just do it in Excel, save the subscription fee.
That's the classic trap. You are stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. You save, what, $10,000 a year on software, but you lose $2 million at the exit. It's incredibly bad math.
So what does this all mean for the listener? If they are sitting there thinking, uh-oh, my finance team lives in spreadsheets, what is the mindset shift?
The shift is realizing that modernizing your finance operations isn't just an IT upgrade. It's not just about making life easier for your accountants, though it does that too.
It's more than that.
It is an equity defense strategy.
Equity defense. I like that phrasing. It sounds proactive.
It is. A brokerage that closes quickly, consolidates cleanly, and can explain every variance instantly, that reduces the perceived integration cost for the buyer. It increases confidence.
And in an unforgiving market, that is the most direct way to protect your valuation.
It is. It's about exit readiness. You want to hand over the keys to a high-performance vehicle, not a car that needs a jump start every morning. Buyers pay a premium for turnkey. They discount for fixer-upper.
It's a powerful takeaway. We often focus so much on the front of the house, the sales, the marketing, the shiny objects, but the back of the house is where the value is actually secured.
Or lost.
Indeed. I think the most important thing for listeners to take away is that this valuation discount is entirely preventable. It's self-inflicted damage.
That's the hopeful part of this deep dive. You can't control the housing market. You can't control interest rates. But you can control whether your books are clean. You can control your systems.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. We've talked about the $2.25 million loss. We've talked about the stress. But think about it this way. If you aren't fixing your back office now, are you effectively writing a check to your future buyer every time you open a spreadsheet?
That is a very expensive keystroke.
Every manual entry is a potential deduction from your future bank account. It's something to think about the next time you ask your team to just fix it in Excel.
It might be cheaper to just fix the system.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. It's been an eye-opener.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.
That's our show for today, looking at how using QuickBooks and spreadsheets will lower the valuation of your brokerage, especially in brokerages with multiple legal entities.
Join us next time for another deep dive into an interesting, timely, or just plain complex topic in the world of enterprise software.